Thank you, Asher, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm truly excited to present this webinar as we are really close to wrapping up this, I would say, strange 2020. I'm sure it was really difficult and challenging for everyone, but I'm going to zoom in today on the mobile testing in 2020, and most important, how you can really get ready and what you can reflect on from this year towards 2021. So you do some lesson learned, but also improve and become a bigger or a better digital winner in the upcoming year. So in today's session, what I'm going to talk about, just before that, maybe just a word about myself. So I'm a part of the Perforce and Perfecto's team. I'm a chief evangelist and also an author of 3 books. The latest one, which is Accelerating Software Quality, just came out almost 3 months ago, and I was very excited about that. Over 20 years, actually almost 21 already, years in the software development and testing space. So if you are not connected with me today, up until today, I truly invite you to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn and continue the discussion over there as well. So in today's discussion, I'm going to reflect back on 2020, what we have seen, what we have learned from Perfecto and Perforce on the market, on the digital landscape. I'm going to talk a bit about some trending topics that we have seen throughout the year and how they're going to evolve next year. And in my mind, some of these things really require your attention and awareness because they will impact. Some of them are already impacting the current landscape. And I will also try my best to leave some time, at least a few minutes, for a short demo of something quite cool from the innovative landscape. So let's get started. So we put everything, in time, in this time window. And as mentioned earlier, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to address them. So what we have learned, obviously we have learned that pandemic is bad for business, but it's also an opportunity for businesses that weren't so much digital to be more digital, to expand on their channels and engage better with their customers. So if you're looking at the current image, so I took it as a Best Buy customer. One of my visits to the store, I've seen this sticker, and you know what? I actually immediately, when I see something like that, I'm looking at, okay, so what does it mean? And I reflected it into the testing and the digital reality. And if you think about, okay, so if a client or if a brand states that is always open at bestbuy.com, this is some kind of a commitment that he's doing, or it's kind of a contract that he's doing with his clients, with his customers, because he's telling the customers, even if our store is closed because of the current reality, you can always engage with us online, whether it's through the web, mobile web, or native mobile application. We are there for you. But what if the bestbuy.com isn't performing well, Black Friday, or in a regular cadence? What if the mobile app isn't working fine on a specific device or operating system? And we have seen quite a few new operating systems and mobile devices, which I'm going to touch later on. So while this is an opportunity, it's also a risk. And we've seen a lot of digital, I wouldn't say failures, but digital incidents that happened throughout the year for businesses that weren't 100% ready for this digital transformation, because it happened, in a very fast, pace, and not all of the organizations were able to cope with this transformation. But obviously, I think that as we are closing 2020, many of these organizations have seen some benefits and advantages of being digital winners. What we also have seen, through Perfecto, old, new, and potentially newer customers in 2020, we have seen that, with everything that happened this year, we have seen that organizations were challenged with these 8 top pains. These things were, extremely painful, challenging, and we've seen it from Perfecto. Perfecto is, a cloud-based solution for remote testing, continuous testing for both mobile and web. So these customers, these clients came to us and told us, especially in today's reality, we are finding it hard to keep up with all the platform upgrades, especially with the fact that we are not in the office, right? These organizations started working remotely, like in a nutshell, and supporting new platforms like mobile and web, new versions, new operating systems, new devices. All of these things were when sometimes maybe in 2019 they were available on the desks in-house, were suddenly kind of unavailable. So the availability, the access to this platform was a key challenge throughout the year. Second was the availability of these platforms accessing from remote. Everyone started to work from home globally. Accessing these things across different time zones was also a big challenge this year. Having security, especially again, working from remote, working with VPN clients, SSO, different network connectivity, and backend services was also a challenge to set up from home, things that a cloud obviously is able to address and overcome. The scale, the productivity, even the cost, right? Budgets were revised this year as well. Okay, the ability to collaborate across different teams became even more critical because everyone was working from remote, so shared resources needed to be better managed across different teams, different practitioners throughout the day. Okay, so these are just a few, but very important challenges that we have explored throughout the digital landscape. Developers, testers for mobile, for web, for desktop applications, everyone really suffered and highlighted these pains to Perfecto. In some cases, these were the reasons why new customers came in 2020 to work with us, because they couldn't really recover and really couldn't move to this new digital remote testing reality. So these are just a few examples. What we also seen in 2020, we have seen, and I'm sure that in 2021 this will even evolve. We have seen a very, major trends in test automation frameworks. We have seen Selenium and Appium still gaining or retaining their momentum, their market share. This wasn't really impacted in a significant way. Actually, we have seen Selenium 4 reaching its beta in 2020 and continuously adopted by organization. But we also have seen few new frameworks such as Cypress, Flutter, and Playwright, three new test automation frameworks that came up to challenge the previously mentioned frameworks. Cypress is trying to challenge Selenium, even though they are targeting different objectives and sometimes even different personas. People tended, and you can search, on Google, you find a lot of comparisons between Cypress and Selenium. I actually, if I'm not mistaken, I've presented either at Star West or Agile DevOps East by TechWell this year a session about the differences between Cypress and Selenium. Okay, so Flutter also for native and hybrid mobile applications coming from Google also seen a rise in adoption. Playwright from Microsoft, from these folks who developed Puppeteer, which is a headless browser testing, also came out this year in 2020, backed by Microsoft. I do see Playwright together with Cypress and Flutter as the three fast-growing test automation frameworks in 2021. So for those of you online, if you haven't looked at Playwright, Flutter, and Cypress, at least be familiar with that and know, what these frameworks are all about, what are their benefits, and where they can complement what you already have today with traditional frameworks such as Selenium, Appium, Espresso, XUI test, and other frameworks as well. So definitely 2020 wasn't quiet from the test automation framework perspective. While there were challenges in the previous slide, this was also an opportunity to innovate, and we have seen new frameworks becoming more and more dominant in our space. Next thing or trend that we have seen the growth of AI and machine learning in DevOps. This is by all means a huge thing that I've seen specifically in 2020. And yeah, I have written a book about that, but I've written a book about that just because it's so important and it's growing so fast with so many tools, products, not just, by the way, in the space of testing. Launchable. It's a new product which is all about test impact analysis, C-Lights, okay, reporting tool, test impact analysis. Perfecto plus Testcraft. Testcraft is a machine learning intelligent test automation solution for cross-browser testing. Okay, we have seen the growth of many other frameworks and tools which are all leveraging from AI and machine learning for the purpose of intelligence, productivity, and I'm sure that 2021 is going to be a turning point for this market in general, not just testing, DevOps at all, looking at AI ops, big data, test automation creation, and many other aspects which today are either error prone, manual, or ineffective. So AI machine learning are here to stay, and they evolved quite significantly in 2020. They're definitely going to be even more advanced in the coming year. What we also have seen from a recent report that my colleagues from Tricentis released, which is called the State of Open Source Testing, what we've seen that the different test automation types in 2020 were divided accordingly. Okay, obviously, Selenium and Appium, as I mentioned in the previous slide, took 77% of the open source test automation, functional test automation perspective. But you also have seen Cucumber and you have seen other types of testing. Manual testing, I would hope that in 2020 it would have been lower than 50%. But we're talking all the time about skills, matching skills to different technologies. But all in all, I think that 77% are still using open source frameworks such as Selenium and Appium. By the way, Cypress is also free. It's open source. It has a commercial flavor on top of, but you can still count it in this functional testing bucket, hopefully in 2021. What we've also seen in 2020 is the rise of new digital apps. And what I mean by that is we have started to see from iOS 14, just came out in September, the introduction of iOS app clips. I'm going to actually, if time permits, I'm going to demonstrate what app clips are. I'm going to definitely touch on that, but if I have time, I will also show you a demo because it's quite cool. Android APKs, okay, that is becoming a mandatory requirement from Google. In 2021, we have seen Perfecto customers already adopting APKs. I will soon explain what they are, but this is a new type of Android applications being adopted by many organizations. Foldables, okay? Foldables are still a debate in the market because they're only provided by Android operating system through different OEMs like Samsung, LG, Huawei, and stuff like that, other vendors. I think that by the time that Apple will join this party of foldables, we will see these devices becoming a real factor in the industry. It's not just a new form factor, it's actually a transformation of how we consume content, mobile apps, web apps, anything like that. And next, we have seen in 2020 the adoption of progressive web applications. PWAs are the future of responsive web. These are the new types of responsive web applications with a lot of mobile functionalities embedded into these web apps. And definitely in 2021, this type of applications, website, will become even greater than what we see today. What we also have seen, I started positive. Let's just give a few negative things that we have seen in 2020. So obviously we have seen a lot of digital innovation, different application types, new frameworks and testing tools, AI and machine learning. What we have seen the cost of failure in the digital space. We have seen brands simply getting hit by, I don't want to expose this specific brand, but if you go to App Annie or other application rating website, you will see a bunch of very disappointing feedback or reviews from customers. Crashes a lot on iPhone 10, struggle issues with gift cards on app and web browsers. What a mess. I think that in 2020, especially that everyone is digital and remote, there is no more room for such bad feedback. And it all comes and ends with the ability to continuously test your digital assets. This is what continuous testing is all about. Testing continuously, running regression suite on the most critical user flows, on the most relevant platforms, web platforms and mobile platforms. And by the way, in some cases, like you will see in this next slide, there are warning signs, okay? In the pipeline, once you are running your suite, whether it's regression, integration testing, API testing, build acceptance testing, non-functional testing like performance and accessibility, you are getting a lot of warning signs, red flags, flakiness, okay? These warning signs are good to identify and avoid what I've shown you in the previous slide. Okay, you need to be really cautious about learning from what you get from your test results. If a test result is showing you, or if a build is broken, it's not just you're losing here time, right? This basic math calculation is showing you that if you have a flaky build of 10%, right, 90% reliability, 10% flakiness in your integration builds, it costs you 900 minutes a week and a cost of about $50 per build. Okay, so this is money and resources that you're wasting. This is not the main impact on quality, but this together with these warning signs, right? You're seeing pop-up handling, devices that are not being tested on because they are in use, elements not found. These are all noise. These are not bugs in your software. So if you're not really making sure that you have a clean pipeline, a clean test suite without all this flakiness, if you're getting these warning signs, red flags, and you're not acting upon them, this will obviously roll into production and cause escape defects. So what we have learned in 2020, the market doesn't forgive for such mistakes. So if you do run regression suite, you're running at scale in parallel, and you're getting these warning signs, okay, 3 times or 2 times in a row the test failed, and you're still keeping it in your regression suite or in your CI, this is a bad practice. If you're seeing all this noise and you're not really excluding the tests from the pipeline and fixing them, only then bringing them back, you are causing or you are piling up a lot of garbage into your suite, which is by default growing because you're innovating, right? So this can become a huge pain. Sometimes you can lose control over that if you're not really acting on time. So again, I think in 2020, one of the lessons learned is that, okay, digital transformation happened. It happened in the night, and it became clear to everyone that you need to work and serve your clients digitally, and digital quality matters more than ever. But it also gave these warnings because you expanded your testing across so many browsers and mobile devices, but you also got a lot of noise and red flags. So if you didn't act upon them, you really piled up a lot of noise, and you actually caused a lot of backlog of maintenance for next year. So as we are closing 2020, this is a good time to look back into your test suites, regardless if they are regression, again, performance, it doesn't matter. Look at your entire test bed, look at your test environments, and try to eliminate all the noise, all the flakiness, so you really start 2021 fresh with the most and highly valuable test environments and test scenarios. Okay, so to really avoid these poor ratings, and I've been in this space, as I mentioned earlier, almost 21 years, and I've started, and most of my career I supported mobile app development and testing. So I just wanted to put in 1 or 2 slides my discipline how you should look into test automation strategy and planning for your mobile apps, whether it's native, hybrid, it doesn't matter. First, you need to divide your test plan into 3 categories. First one is obviously the functionality, the end-to-end flows, the business flows that matter to your users. Second, UI testing. People will tell you, yeah, API testing, the test pyramid, I've seen it. I wrote my books about that. It's clear. It doesn't really matter because in mobile, you deal with user interface. You're dealing with new screen sizes, screen resolutions, browsers, font sizes, custom operating systems. It is simply more complicated than any other apps. So testing across different languages, landscape and portrait, stuff like that. I've seen as part of I've myself plus Perfecto have supported voluntarily the MIT project for COVID-19 app. Okay, and what we have learned is that they were testing the app on the Perfecto cloud, and it was a React Native app, and it always truncated specific strings on OnePlus devices, these Chinese devices which are really popular. And what we have learned is that in a different language on these devices, specifically with React Native, only these devices, it's a known bug, text is disappearing from the screen. You couldn't see it on any Google Pixel or on any Samsung or not on any Motorola device. It was specific to this device. This is why, API testing really wouldn't have found this bug. This is a visibility issue. This is a UI testing related stuff together with the functionality of all the business flows. So this is your first bucket. This is your first pillar when you're looking into a mobile test application plan. Second is the environment, okay? While Perfecto provides you a cloud for real devices, we also provide you a cloud with virtual devices like simulators and emulators. But, talking with my clients day in and day out, they are looking mostly on the real devices because they care about the real network conditions, 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, different locations, different interruptions like calls and alerts, gestures which are only relevant, on real devices. Even if you can mimic them on a virtual one, together with all the real environment conditions on a real device, it's simply not close to what your end user will experience. This is why real environment condition testing is the second pillar for mobile testing. Third one is something that is being neglected, and I think 2021 might put an end to that because it's really an equal citizen in the test plan, and it's all about the non-functional testing. Baking, security, accessibility, performance testing, and also API testing into the cycle, shifting all these left as part of your build acceptance testing, your regression, your nightly regression testing, not leaving all of these test cases to the end of the cycle because you know what? When it's left to the end, no one cares. No one has time to look into that. No one has time to clean the noise and really focus on the issues. These things needs to happen in parallel with the functionality testing and the real environment testing. So this is a nice test plan. And what I've done, I took, since we are serving so many vertical, I've decided to just look at an airline mobile application, looking at the previous slide and showing you how you can really decide what to automate. Okay? If you take the previous slide and you put into consideration different locations, different platforms, networks, performance, accessibility, all these things, and then you look at a typical native airline application, whether it's Delta Airlines or some other airline, even though they weren't that active in 2020, unfortunately, you can see here that these are the common use cases, common features and user flows within the app. But not every feature here is being consumed the same way. Not every feature has a security requirements or a data dependency, or it's being reused so often. So when you pile and look at all these considerations and distinguish between them, you can actually get a subset of the most relevant test scenarios that you want to automate and put inside your CI, put inside of your build acceptance testing, so you do meet the deadlines, the strict deadlines. So this is just a nice sample test plan for a specific vertical. You can think about that for mobile banking, insurance companies, telcos, and many more. And if you take the previous slide and merge that with my friends Ingo Philip and Michael Bolton and look at the ocean of test cases. I love this visual because it really shows you how you can manage software quality risks. Okay, when you think about what you're automating, this is my previous slide. This is the things that we know about, the use cases for airline. But we also have a history, right? History of test cases that we have performed and found bugs. There are tests which we are not really aware of. There are things that we are not covering, like platforms, different environment conditions, and stuff like that. So if you think about that, the mix of manual and exploratory testing plus automation and fine-tuning, calibrating, validating between one iteration to the next really can give you a nice ongoing continuous testing flow or suite that you can manage over time. So think about the three previous slides, right? The plan itself, the vertical specific suite, which each and every one of your line has relation to its own vertical. But then look at the bigger picture. Look at the ocean of test cases. See what you are covering today, what you are missing. And again, what you're missing can be a mix of of environments and platforms, or it can just be different use cases which you didn't tested for a long while because who knows why. Okay? So this is also something to consider. Last but not least is platform coverage. I mentioned earlier, today and in 2020, we've seen the rise of iOS 14, Android 11, new Pixel, new Samsung Galaxy Note, a new series of iPhone 12 with different screen sizes and resolutions. You need to make sure that you are always, especially if you're in the mobile space, but also for the web, that you're always in touch with your end users, with the market, and you are updating your test lab with what's happening in the market. Things like, Google has a significant market share, and it's not just about the market share. Google Pixel is the only device today which is running a custom Android 11 operating system. This is your only chance to really test against the latest and greatest from Google. Not all of the Samsungs are definitely not getting it firsthand, the Android 11. Some of them are just about to get that a few months later. But Google Pixel is your target golden device for the latest and greatest Android OS. iPhone 12, the latest iPhone 12 are the factory golden devices for iOS 12. Okay, it was built and designed for these devices. You need to test on the latest and greatest as well, but not neglect the latest one like iPhone 6. iPhone 6 is locked on iOS 12, but still has a significant market share. Okay, so testing on latest -1 and latest -2 for the operating system, plus the market leading, at least a sample of the market leading vendors, is key for your success. Otherwise, we have seen what's happening on the App Annie and app reviews. And if you take everything that I've just told you and put it in a pipeline visual, balancing between virtual devices like emulators and simulators and real devices, putting in your pull request a feedback loop of X amount of test cases, which brings you value based on experience, history, and relevancy to the code changes, and then doing a midday regression cycle, like you can see here in the 1 hour feedback, okay? You are really enhancing the chances of a strong and valuable regression cycle overnight, which is most likely to run only on real devices, but it will already be after you have validated at least 2 times that day that your build is stable enough and there are no significant showstopper, so you won't waste a full night of regression. So you get in the morning and you see really good feedback that you can base your next steps on. With that part of this webinar, I want to move to the next gen. I mentioned just in a nutshell the rise of digital apps, app clips and APKs. Okay, I want to start with APKs because it's important. APKs is the new version of Android application formats, which is a zip file. It's a bundle of multiple small APK files, Android packaged applications, which are being delivered to the customers based on their geographical location, the device that they are using, and specific features that is only available for these devices. This is a new ability that Google is pushing, so you can gradually expose specific features functionalities to specific devices and geographies. It also saves a lot of size. When you download an APK which is fully custom to your device and your geography, obviously you're saving space and you get better performance and better user experience. So this is not a recommendation. You can see here, maybe it's a bit blurry, but it's important. In the second half of 2021, new apps will be required to publish with Android App Bundle on Google Play. Okay, this is not some trend or some recommendation. This is a mandatory requirement from Google for 2021 that any Google Android application will be deployed to the Google Play as an APKs zip bundle. Okay, so if there are any mobile developers online here, or if you are the mobile testers, you want to be in touch already today with your developers. Tell them about this new feature, about this new Google requirement, because this is something that is a reality and it's required. Again, I mentioned some of the feedback or some of the benefit that you will get out of this APKs. You can also see on this slide that with APKs, you get the ability to update a specific app. Let's say a defect escaped to production, you got updated about that. You can push an immediate update or do it in a flexible mode that there is an update. You can pop up the user. This is not something that you see today in Android, right? You're going to really push to the user a new version on demand, sometimes really force the update, like the immediate update here. But this is something that the APKs technology supports and is built to resolve for you guys, the mobile application developers and testers. So the gradually exposure of new features, enabling and disabling features on the fly, and obviously reducing the resource consumption, the size through this kind of application types. And by the way, if you go to the developer Android portal, you can actually see the best practices and you can see how to launch a new APKs, what is the checklist. You can learn on the Android app bundle technology, what is required and stuff like that. And oh, by the way, if you go to the Google Play today and search for some example of APKs, and you will find some examples online, you will see that the size of this app is not being displayed on the Google Play because it varies between the devices. So there is no longer a specific Google APK size on the Google Play because there is going to be a different app size for Samsung, which is different from the Motorola and the Huawei's and the Foldables. So it's going to be really distributed by device type and also location. So this is about the APKs. Obviously, Perfecto supports already this format. So if you want to test the new format of APKs, as you can see here in this visual, you see here the camera app. It actually is a bundle of two APKs, two APK files, okay? And you can upload it and test it on specific devices, different devices in the Perfecto cloud already. The second thing that I wanted to show you is the Apple App Clips. This is something that Apple introduced in iOS 14. In iOS 14, Apple allowed the users to really not install, but actually deploy a subset or a feature of a native application without going through the App Store. You can get it either through an app clip code, NFC tag, QR code, or just go to the Safari and start interacting with an app. Okay, this is a revolutionary technology that Apple is introducing as part of iOS 14, and actually we have seen already in this quarter multiple applications that are able to give this value of app clips and support this kind of a sneak preview or just a unique feature value to the end user. Think about a parking application. You just need to park, pay for that, and you're never going to use this app. App clip is just about that. You get a usage of a specific feature of a full-blown application, but you just use this feature. Once you're done, the app is destroyed. You don't need to install it. You don't need to save it on your device. And this is something that Apple started deploying as part of iOS 14. You can see here that there is a dedicated website, developerapple.com app clips. So, together with APKs, this is the future of mobile native applications. Okay, so this is very important. And by the way, when you want to test for such apps, because this webinar is about testing, okay, let's see if I can actually, let's see if I can show you something right now. I'm going to share with you my screen for just a second. Okay, and what you see right now on the screen, this is a Phoenix 2. This is a game. This is a game that you can see here on the browser. I can actually go to my cloud, to the Perfecto cloud. Okay, and I want to see how you can test this game on a real device in the Perfecto cloud. Let me just try once again, because there was a timeout here. So just 1 second, I will launch my my real cloud for devices. This is what happens when you do a live demo. You need to expect some issues, which is good. But I'm going to launch a real device. By the way, this is the Perfecto cloud. We support manual testing, automation with Selenium, Appium, Espresso, XCUI test, and many other frameworks. I'm going to just, because I'm talking about iOS 14 app clips, so I'm going to launch an iPhone 6s real device in the Perfecto cloud. Okay, this device is running iOS 14. I will soon show you its different capabilities. So this is the device. It's located in the US East, and it's running, again, iOS 14. This is the screen resolution, everything else. I'm going to launch the browser, okay? And I'm going to simply point to this game, okay? This game supports the app clip. Once this Safari browser is loaded, you see here, okay, you can either download this app from the App Store, but you can actually start playing the game as an app clip from your Safari browser without undergoing the full download. Okay, you see, this is an app clip. I click on that. I didn't install anything from the App Store, and the app launches. It's going to give you the ability, okay, you see here it still allows you to download if you want, but you can actually play the first 2 levels of the game. If you like them, if you enjoy them, you can go back and download the full-blown application. But this is kind of a preview of the app without downloading anything from the App Store, without providing any credentials, any credit card, nothing at all. So this is a cool example of how you can look at app clips with iOS 14. I won't play in this webinar. I'm not that bored, but as we are already in this screen, as you have seen, this is a real iPhone, this is a real device. We have also browsers in the cloud. And what you can actually do as well, you can do many things. You can virtualize network. Okay, you can set different network conditions in this device. You can set a different location. You can mimic the device that is currently, I don't know, in Australia. Okay, maybe the Australian zoo. And I can inject the location to this device and test how the user will experience the app or the website while being in Australia. I can send a text message. I can call this device and see how it impacts the application in runtime. I can do an object spy. So let's think if I'm a developer and I want to switch from manual testing towards automation, and I want to test this news application. Okay, once I click on the news application icon, okay, you will soon see the entire object tree. Okay, you see the news here, and you see here the element. That's the XCUI native object locator of the app, and this I can copy to my Appium script or to my XCUI test script and transition easily towards automation. I can also use OCR, image analysis, or text analysis. If you think about the app clip example, I can actually validate through automation that everything that I was expecting to see on the app clip on this device was actually there. So you can combine both functional, real user conditions, visual testing, and also transition towards test automation in a single device, in a single flow. And by the way, after I have released this device, you can also see through this platform a test analysis. You can see how all the builds, all the different builds that are running from CI are managed in a single place. And you can monitor, you can track, you can see the build success. You can go to the specific reports from a report library. You can see which report failed and passed and why it passed. You see the visuals, the recording, everything is available for you so you can understand what is going on. With that, let me just go back to the slides and continue this session. So what I've just shown you is, an app clip from iOS 14. This is reality. If you thought that I'm just talking about a trend like in the previous slide, no, this is real. Like APKs is real. App clips are real. We've seen a real game, a real application that is already implementing that, and we have a bunch of other applications that are also there. So you want to test them across different devices, different browsers, different sensors that are being used to launch the app clip. You want to test across landscape and portrait, different languages. Okay, what's happening when is an incoming notification comes and I'm using the app clip? It's a different way of thinking about mobile testing. It's kind of a parallel testing to your native app because it doesn't really support everything that your app provides. The native app is just a subset, so you want to be smart about that. So this is app clips and APKs. Now let's just talk a bit about the foldable devices. So foldables, people have huge expectations because they're spending a lot of money. These devices have grown quite significantly in 2020. Samsung and Motorola are the leading vendors today, but also we have seen Huawei and Xiaomi as Chinese vendors going into these technologies. But these technologies are very expensive, hence the expectations for app quality, accessibility are also great. In this case, what you need to do is if you have users, if you have analytics and you see customers using this type of devices, start exploring. You have as part of the Android SDK an emulator for Samsung Fold. If not, you have in Perfecto real foldable devices hosted in our cloud. Yes, you can test foldable smartphones with Appium or manually on the Perfecto cloud. And oh, by the way, Apple is already looking into a September 2022, less than 2 years from now, to release their first foldable device. So this technology is not a hype or anything else. It's real, it's being adopted. Customers are seeing value from that, and it's baked into Android 11. Android 11 today supports in a mandatory fashion the foldable different capabilities, and I will soon explain what are these capabilities. When you talk about foldable smartphones, you're talking about applications that are running on the foldable devices. You need to be familiar with three different acronyms or terms. First one is the app continuity. Second is the multi-window, and third is the main and cover displays. Obviously, these are very specific to foldables, and when you think about multi-window or app continuity, it's anything else that you have tested up until today, because for foldable devices, you're able to run up to 3 different native or web applications in the foreground. Okay, remember what I've just said. 3 apps running in the foreground. When today you're using a tablet or you're using a split screen on a Samsung Galaxy Note, which is not a foldable, you see one app which is in the foreground, the other one goes to the background. Here you can interact in the foreground with 2 or 3 applications at the same time, which means competition on resources, obviously, performance, and think about incoming events. Everything becomes a bit more complicated. Not that mobile testing is not complicated as is, but things are becoming even more complicated. Look at this, activity. Okay, they are baked into this manifest file and the Android configuration per each application. These functionalities, resizable activity needs to be set to true or false. You need to configure that if you're supporting Android 11 operating system as the app developer. You must make sure that you are putting values into these new manifest.mf file properties, including the resizable activities, the multi-resume, and everything else. So this is quite important. Second, with regards to multi-window, this is not something that is supported by all different operating systems. So from a testing perspective, you want to look into different testing strategies, looking at Android N, Android N below O, below P, or Android Pi, and obviously today we are Android 11, right? But there are different support level for multi-resume, freeform window, and split view, which also impact how your apps will run and work on these different operating systems. Making your app resizable, you want to make sure that you are setting the value to true. Android support size changes. This is the parameter, the property. Okay, as an app developer, this must be set because if you are supporting Android 11, this is a requirement from Google. Okay, and you want to test that as well. You can see here that there is also a split view functionality where you can actually see two apps, sometimes even three, running in parallel. You want to also test accordingly. These are the few split view options that are available starting Android N and above. Also, you can see about the freeform. I mentioned earlier that there is a freeform multi-window option, and this is something that you can customizely change as part of the end user experience, but you want to also test about that. So from a setting perspective, you can increase the size of the window, the width, the length, the height, everything is customizable, and it needs to be tested because think about a user which is going to run 2 or 3 apps in the foreground. It will play with the sizes, and you want to be able to test for that across different devices, different screen size, and different form factors. Before we are summarizing the foldables, okay, this is the few options for multi-resume. This is the most important, in my mind, feature of foldables. You see here 3 apps running in the foreground, and you see here how one app is resumed and 2 apps are paused. This is the older method. In the new method of multi-resume view for foldable devices starting Android P and above, you can actually set the 3 apps as resumed, meaning that these 3 apps are running for the user in the foreground. And let's say if the right hand one is the messaging, the left one is, I don't know, a text input, and the third one is a map. You can actually send text from one to the next, and you can search the Google Maps while you are texting. Everything here works in the same time in the foreground. Okay, so that's a new way of thinking about mobile user experience, but it's also something that complicates your testing, manual and automated. So just to summarize that, so there are a few things to consider. Obviously, apps, operating system permutations, device compatibility for these different types of applications, different resources and consumption as these apps are running in the foreground together, UI testing, I mentioned earlier, and foldable device support with on resume and on pause when you are playing with a specific app. This is quite important. Last but not least is the accessibility, especially when you are dealing with a foldable device which is folded and then unfolded in an open mode. You're going to see different elements being resized and sometimes becoming less accessible. Making sure that you need to make sure that you are testing for accessibility on both modes, on both device types. This is really critical, not just from a compliance method and penalties that you might get if you are not accessible, but also for your end user experience perspective. With Perfecto, we are providing, by the way, in an automated fashion over Appium, native iOS and Android scanner for accessibilities. So you can actually run with a check accessibility true flag with Appium on Perfecto, an accessibility scan, and get a report on all these devices, whether they are folded or unfolded, and you can see if you are compliant or if there are any accessibility violations. Google is also strong in providing through Android 11 and other user guides the best practices on how to test for accessibility, app launches, working with keyboards, folded and unfolded, transitioning between main and cover displays, All of these things are key best practices that Google, Samsung, and other vendors are recommending you to include in your testing plan for your mobile native and hybrid or web applications. So with that, since I've already showed you a short demo, I'm not going to show another demo. Before we start with the Q&A, because we have few minutes left, I just want to wrap up and summarize what we have talked about today. So we started with the trends about digital transformation in 2020, looking at AI machine learning, emerging frameworks, right? Flutter, Cypress, Playwright, all of these frameworks which are growing in 2020 and are going to be even more important in 2021. We then talked about the new reality in digital applications with APKs, app clips, and foldables. Okay, and last we have talked about how a mobile testing plan should look like from both coverage perspective, functionality perspective, UI, and non-functional testing. And then also we have seen a demo of the Perfecto continuous testing cloud for both mobile and web, with a focus on how to look into an app clip for iOS 14, again in the cloud. With that, I would like to wrap up this session and leave the few minutes left for questions if there are any. So I'll hand it back to you, Rochelle. If there are any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Yeah, thank you, Eran. We have a few minutes for questions. Eran will now be taking from the audience. We'll try to get through as many as possible, as a handful did come through. We have one from Sergi. So are app clips just like instant apps from Google?
Yes, even though instant apps from Google didn't really survived, app clips are a new reality, and we've seen really the adoption by many vendors, many application developers. So to the question, yes, this is like an instant app. It's something that you consume in different methods like NFC or QR code or a link from your Safari browser without really needing to download the full-blown application.
Yeah, very good. From Arshana, how does test analysis get the report? Is it based on the test scenarios mapped?
So I think that she's referring to the demo itself, so to my test reporting demo. If so, basically the way test automation with Perfecto works, we have implemented a reporting SDK, and this is something that you just plug into your Appium. We also have a Quantum BDD open source framework. So depending on the framework that you are using to write your scripts, you can put the SDK, you can import the SDK into your framework and just put all the different tags, step start, step stop, and stuff like that. And this is being thrown into the reporting and analysis dashboard, including Jenkins jobs or other failure analysis responses and other logs, stuff like that. So it's part of the reporting SDK that Perfecto has built on top of the frameworks.
Well, I hope that answers your question, Arshana. We have one coming in from Paul. Can MS Surface be considered out of scope because of low adoption?
Great question, and I think that I will just tell you my take on that. I think that it can be excluded, especially in light of 2020, where Microsoft just launched the Surface Duo, which is a foldable device. So Microsoft joined Samsung and Motorola, and they have their own foldable, which is their mobile flavor of smartphone and tablet, a hybrid device. So yeah, all the Surface, by the way, I'm using a Surface myself. I'm not considering it as a mobile device. It's a laptop, it's a smart laptop, but it's not a mobile device. The Surface Duo, which just has been introduced by Microsoft, that's a device, that's a mobile device.
Very good. We have one from David Cross. Can daily execution goals be set and tracked for test management?
Can you repeat? If daily?
Can daily execution goals be set and tracked for test management?
Of course, of course. I should have actually I have a good slide about, KPIs and metrics and how you do measure your continuous testing effectiveness. But yes, depend on the goals. You may put some goals that are either unmanageable or not that visually feasible to collect in a single day, especially with all the things that are happening. But and we can take it also offline and discuss it because it's an interesting topic. But things like daily objectives can be, okay, pass and fail test results, defects escaped from the cycle, test flakiness, the test that took me the longest to run within the cycle, the worst job that I had. If you collect all of these metrics, and again, for David, maybe you have a specific set of metrics on your own that you want to set as goals and measure at the end of the cycle or at the end of the day. But these kind of things, if you really plan for them, you can put tagging and you can put and use reporting SDKs and annotations to really collect back into your dashboards all of these outputs so you can make smarter decisions. But I do probably need to maybe talk to you offline if you like, and really get an example of few specific metrics that you care about, and really see if these are being easily populated into a report, or if they require a more sophisticated export system.
Very good. There's one that comes in from Anil. Is there a way to test login using OTP using a Perfecto device?
Yes, it's a clear and solid yes. We have, I'd say, hundreds of enterprise customers in the mobile space, almost all the biggest brands that you can think of who are doing such testing. I think it's common in almost any application. So you can do it in an automated way and also manually against the real mobile devices, iOS and Android. So yes, it's fully supported.
A question comes in from Syed. Can biometrics and Face ID authentication testing be done using Perfecto?
Another yes. We use a sophisticated app instrumentation to really inject both a face or fingerprint into the login screens using Appium or XUI test or Espresso. So yes, it's also fully supported. You can test biometrics, both, by the way, in a manual fashion as well as in an automated fashion.
Very good. And from Chinmay, how can we learn more about APKs?
I think you can either talk to me. There isn't much knowledge out there. It's kind of a fresh technology. It's a mandatory one. I did provide it in the in the slides that you have under the resources folder. In the slide itself, you have a link to the Google Developers Guide for APKs. I have written recently a blog, so if you search on Google Eran Kinsbrunner APKs, you will find my blog. You can reach directly to me and I will send you the link if you like. But I have written quite a lot about testing APKs and what is the benefit of that, what are the pitfalls. So it's a combination of either talk to me, read my blog, and use the Google guide, user guide, to really get started with that. But it starts with the developers. The developers have the heaviest lift in the beginning because they need to really convert the traditional APK big file into smaller APKs and deploy it to the Google Play for you to start testing. And we support it in Perfecto.
Thanks. So it looks like we have time for one more question. There's a few that came in after this. So Elise, do you contribute to the Appium open source project to make sure it's kept up to date with the latest operating systems?
The question is if Perfecto is contributing?
Yeah, to the Appium. Yep.
Yes, we have a Perfecto R&D resource. Actually, quite recently, just did another contribution to the Appium open source. I don't know if it was a bug or a feature. Sometimes we look the same way on both. But yes, one of our R&D developers is part of the Appium open source community, and he just finished, I think, a month ago, contributing some more code changes. I don't remember. I can go back and look. His name is Dan Maor. But yes, the simple answer is yes. We are part of the Appium open source. We're trying to contribute as much as we are allowed. We are happy to contribute even more. It's not always easy because of the community behind Appium. But yes, if we have the ability, we are contributing as much as we can.
Looks like we're at the top of the hour. Those are a great set of questions, and we can download the questions that we didn't get to for Iran to answer offline. This concludes our presentation for today. I'd like to thank Iran with Perfecto by Perforce for his time, and a special thank you goes out to our audience for spending your time with us. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.